is an oxymoron, one podcast has set out to make things right. This is the UnPodcast with your hosts, Scott Stratton and Allison Kramer.
Oh, that music gives me the chillies. How's it going, everybody, for the UnPodcast, episode number 3. I am Scott Stratton, along with Allison Kramer, your co-host. Hello, Allison.
Hello, Scott.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. We've had some props to the episode.
We did.
We've taken it up a notch. We've broken the budget and brought in...
spent all the monies on the props.
All the monies on the props. We have all 3 books from our world, including QR Codes Kill Kittens, which will be on shelves whenever you're listening to this. And, of course, celebrating the kickoff to football season, we have Barry Sanders. How are you, Barry? He's a strong silent type.
Yes.
He's here. Since we're both, unfortunately, Lions fans, we have to keep the support there. So, this week, what does dubstep have to do with justifyingly killing someone?
I cannot wait to find out.
I try not to tell Allison what we're talking about just to get her reaction out of it. So I'm going to read you this article, and the topic for this episode is the power of one brand, meaning the power of you within a brand and how it can change it, because we've always said your employees are your brand and how it can really shift it one way or another. And it's really, brands are based on individual experiences, not, let's say, massive commercial campaigns.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite sites, one of the few newsletters I'm subscribed to, is called Lowering the Bar.
Okay.
It's a great, if you go to loweringthebar.net, we'll put a link on the page, obviously, at theunpodcast.com and on the UnPodcast page as well on Facebook. Great site, and always just puts out the most ridiculous lawsuits. This is a lawyer here who writes this site, and he puts out just the most ridiculous things he's found today.
Okay.
On a lawsuit, and I absolutely love it. He writes his own synopsis of it. So it's amazing how I can work in a dubstep and potentially murdering somebody to the UnPodcast. So the tagline for the site, by the way, is "Illegal humor seriously." Like that's the whole line. So the title is "Good Reason to Kill Number 36, Dubstep, and Number 37, The King of Pop." So from an August 23rd press release from the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, a 52-year-old man accused of smashing a champagne bottle over his 30-year-old coworker's head after the younger man changed the music from classical Michael Jackson to dubstep has been acquitted of all charges, San Francisco Public Defender Jeff Adichie announced today. So here's the read-up from Lowering the Bar. The defendant was arrested after what was described as a, quote, bloody incident at a team-building happy hour. That is probably my favorite sentence I've ever said.
Team building happy hour.
Smashing a champagne bottle over his 30-year-old coworker's head.
A bloody incident. Like, what did he do? A
bloody incident at a team building happy hour. It's the greatest thing I've ever heard. The kind of incident that generally means the team building effort has failed.
Yeah, maybe it's not going the way you were thinking it was going to go.
Here it goes. Witnesses testified that the younger man repeatedly insisted on changing the music to the, quote, the bass-heavy electronic dance music. That's what adults call dubstep. And that the last straw for the defendant came when the younger man dared to interfere with Michael Jackson's Wanna Be Startin' Something, which is amazing, by the way. It's that song. The defendant approached to rectify the situation. The dubstepper, which is a term, by the way.
Okay.
The dubstepper, quote, rushed to commandeer the computer with, quote, an angry look. And the defendant whacked him in the head with a champagne bottle.
Why am I picturing them having like a rap battle?
Like, I think we're gonna battle it
out.
Like a step off, like a dubstep off.
The guy's going to do like Michael Jackson moves, and the other guy's going to do dubstep moves.
Yeah.
And
this episode is sponsored by Skrillex. So felony charges followed. The defendant argued he had acted in self-defense against someone known to be violent, a claim that the dubstepper disputed. On the stand, the younger man denied being violent. However, he was contradicted by witnesses who testify he engaged in a spree of violence months earlier at the office Christmas party, including sneaking up behind 2 men separately as each used a urinal, poking his finger in one man's eye. By the way, poaching a urinal and then say poking, by the way. It's a bad combination. Poking his finger in one man's eye and smacking the other man's head against the wall. The complaining witness, when questioned on the stand about the urinal incidents, characterized his conduct as, quote, utterly hilarious. That does sound like a riot, but the jury apparently disagreed. The whole press release is worth reading, largely just for the Dubsteppers' antics.
I'm just dying to know what these people do. Everything about me wants to know that they are preschool teachers.
This is the greatest thing I've ever read as somebody with an HR background and knowing the shenanigans that happen at these parties. But to have it Michael Jackson versus Skrillex.
It's the ultimate and get off my lawn. I will hit you with this giant
old
champagne bottle.
Versus new, dropping the bass versus moving your feet. It's just, you know what we should have just pulled in here? A dubstep version of Wanna Be Starting Something. Like if we can, I'm sure Wayne, if we can whip that up, in no time here, he'll just take care of it for us.
Michael Jackson video, is it when they meet out in the streets?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's a Beat It.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, but throw Skrillex in there. So Eddie Van Halen on guitar, have Skrillex come out with a turntable.
Yeah,
or something.
I do not know what to say, but I'm thinking maybe their team building needs a little more talking and a little less music.
So it's just,
I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe they need to communicate a little bit better.
As soon as I read it, I just said we have to talk about it on the podcast. It was the greatest opening to this topic, which means you represent your employer no matter what, internally and externally, and to have the violent history. How this guy doesn't lose his job before
for urinal poking incidents? Is that what you said? Urinal poking incidents?
Coming from that
was
an HR
multiple
background,
urinal poking incidents.
They have to be in a union. This is the only way they're keeping their job here. Because if I see the term urinal poking incidents,
I think you said it was plural.
Plural, because apparently it's utterly hilarious. I believe that's immediate ground for termination. Like under just cause dismissal under the law, there is there's racism, theft. And urinal poking incidents will be the third thing, I think, in treason. I think those are pretty much the only ways you can fire somebody for no
like
notice.
The fact that this guy was, like, the court found him justified in hitting someone over the head in a bloody incident with a champagne bottle because he was so afraid of the urinal poker should kind of tell you something.
You know what? I think sometimes you just need the dubstep. Sometimes you need to drop that bass. Like if everything's feeling okay, then you just bow wow. It's just gotta go, right? You know what I mean? Like I wish we could just get the rights to a whole bunch of dubstep right now. But it really is that to me. It's just it's
absolutely.
You look at it and say,
and as a group they represent a company, and so it's not only the individuals but the entire incident. The fact that was allowed to happen.
I think they're hiring. I just don't know if I'd apply for the job. I just don't think I'd apply for the job. And this is what we're talking about in this topic, which is really that power of the individual, the power of the one person in the brand that really makes it different. And I want to talk about a situation that happened that we were both witness to very recently that changed the idea of a brand. And the books are full of examples of this that can really increase or decrease our view of the brand. I've always thought that a brand is an organic thing, an always changing thing, which is it's based on all of our individual experiences, good and bad. Every interaction will create either a positive or negative impact on that brand. There's no such thing to me as a neutral brand interaction. Yeah. It's always going to go up or down, and we decide which way we want to move that needle as individuals, as employees, as owners, as managers, as anything. Yeah, we're always doing that. Whether for how we treat coworkers, whether it's a champagne bottle to the head, or just letting the dubstep go, or it's how we treat a customer when we're about to close and we keep it open, or it's frustrating, or we've had a bad day. All of those things really can go from there. So the best story I can relate to that's happened to us recently was we were in Toronto for Fan Expo. Yeah. For pretty much Comic-Con of Toronto, and I'm a huge fan of comic book fans since I was a kid.
We pretend we're taking the kids, but
we
really
pretend we're
we
taking
go
children,
for us.
And we go because I like to buy statues. Yeah. Of my.
And I like to look at costumes, so we go for us and we pretend we're taking children.
So we bring our two boys, and it's my son's birthday. And so it's his 12th birthday, and happy birthday, my man. And so this is what we want to do. We got VIP wristbands. We got in before a lot of people got in for VIP, but only 5% of the general population people can get in. We had about 3 hours before on the Thursday to go in and, kind of get dibs on everything.
Yeah, because there's video games and stuff, so once it gets busy, the kids don't get a chance.
And we've gone years previously as well, and our kids would never be able to get a chance to try the new games. Yeah, there's the new Assassin's Creed coming out and Splinter Cell and all these things. And you'd never have a chance because it's just too busy. You're not going to wait in that line. It's just so packed. So we're like, this year we're going to pony up. We're going to, which is the reason why we don't have a life-size Barry Sanders cutout in the studio here, because
we bought some tickets.
We bought the nice wristbands. So we went and and Junior really wanted to play some of the games. And of course, we're like, of course, that's why we came so early.
Yeah.
And so he went over and tried the new Splinter Cell game, and which is not something we played a lot. It's just not one of the games. He was a Halo.
But that's what's so great about the Expo, because he can try them, right? Without having to buy them, he can try them.
And it feels cool as a kid to play a game that you know is not out yet.
Yeah, it's
very cool. So huge launch for this game, and because he's played the Halo or Call of Duty and Minecraft fan for both our boys. So he goes and tries the game, and he turns out he loves it. Surprisingly, he loves it because it's not one of the games we've really played. We've had a copy of
he really loved it. He was really excited.
He was good at it, and not only it was nice because one of the guys who was running was like 8 TVs at once, multiplayer, and the guy working the booth started playing beside him and helping him out.
Yeah.
Right, which is very cool. I've never seen somebody engage like that, so that was nice already. So
we were already having a pretty good experience standing there.
Well done. So then we decide, hey, we can buy it.
Yeah, and it's his birthday, so obviously if you want it, then you can get
for
it.
him. EB Games had a little booth there, and they had 2 things: the new Assassin's Creed little action figure, and this.
That's
game.
right. We should just come to Canada. And
right.
I said that was a new thing.
And Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's buy it. And so we're like, can we get this? And remember, they had just opened. So this is day one, pre-day one, really, for just the VIP people coming in. So the cash register wasn't working. And the EB Games guy is being apologetic. He's being nice. Nothing bad at all. And of course, it's a little frustrating because we only have now about 2 hours left before the whole window opens, and everybody.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of other games, and the kids want to keep going. Obviously, they're children. The only people worse in line than we are kids. Yeah. And so no one wants to wait in line, but he really wanted the game, and so we're waiting as long as we can. And he was the man behind the counter, who was obviously frustrated with the fact that everything wasn't working yet, and he was talking to us and helping us.
Yeah, so there's the EB Games guy who was working cash register, and then there's a second guy, and he then says kind of jokingly, but he's like, by the way, I work for Ubisoft, not EB Games.
Yeah, the company who makes the game.
The developer of the game, the studio makes the game, and I've heard the name. I'm a big gamer myself for a very long time, so I know the name. But we start talking, and he's like, as a joke, he's like, hey, this is not my thing, but I'm standing behind your game. And he wouldn't walk away. He stayed there, grabbed us a copy, and wanted to wait. And we waited a good 10, 15 minutes, again, which is a very long time normally, let alone waiting to see the rest of this show.
Yeah.
And I didn't say who it was. I didn't say I had a podcast or a book or anything else. We're a customer. And he gets to start talking, and it turns out he's the senior director of sales for Canada for Ubisoft. So he's a kind of a big deal for Ubisoft. And I'm amazed he's still standing here. Just when I find out who he is, I'm like, that's very cool of him. It's one, and he starts talking about it, and I start telling him, asking about Ubisoft, a great Canadian company. They have a studio in Montreal, 1,500 people at one location, 2,000 in total, all working on these games.
Yeah, we were asking questions, and he was really cool. He's talking about the numbers of games they bring into Walmart, the numbers of games they bring into EB, and all these
shipping 40,000 to 100,000 games, and the pressure is to move these games.
Yeah.
Yet he was focusing solely on one game.
Yeah.
The one he was selling.
For a 12-year-old on his birthday.
To my son for his birthday. And he's talking, and he turns to him, he's like, hey guys, if you're ever in Montreal and want a tour, you let me know, and gave us his card.
And the boys freaked out, obviously.
Robert Donsky, who's the senior director of sales at Ubisoft. And the boys, of course, were just like, what, now? Like, when, now? Because
can we go to Montreal this afternoon?
We had tried to get a tour of the place at Gears of War.
That's right.
And we'd never heard back anything. And of course, I know they get hit up a lot for it. I get it. But he was just like, anytime. And I was like, anytime is right. We'll go anytime. And then he gets to the point where 15 minutes in, he has had enough.
Yeah.
He's more frustrated than us.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? And he asked the guy, there's another setup way over on the other side. EB Games is a bigger kind of stuff with all the different games. He's like, is that open? The guy's like, yeah, it's open over there. He goes, you come with me.
Yeah, and he personally walked
us all the way to the cashier. When there's 30 people in line there to buy, he walks straight up to the cashier. He's like, hey, I'm Robert from Ubisoft, the senior director of sales. And this young man needs this game right now.
Yeah, and I get defensive sometimes when people will come at you or something and say like that people are only nice to you because of a following or whatever. And sometimes that's true, and we understand that, and that's fair. Yeah. But like we didn't say anything. There was not a single part of this conversation that had anything to do with what we do. We were talking to him and asking him questions.
I didn't say if you didn't do something or you do something.
There was no mad. There was no tweeting. There was
following
nothing
on Twitter, a book, nothing at all.
He just really, really cared about.
But here's the biggest part.
One kid having the game.
Yeah, he cared about my kid.
Yeah.
And people always cared about a sale. It's one sale. This guy's got to move 40, 50,000 units of a game.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
And if you want to get to the parents' purse strings, give a damn about their kid.
Yeah,
but treat them, but in a sincere way. It wasn't like he was.
It wasn't fake at all.
No, it wasn't like kind of just pretending it's out of a manual. I should be nice. He's like, he's getting this game. He's getting
It says here I should be nice. And
Yeah. Step 4 in the manual. No, he's like, he's getting it.
Yeah.
He's getting it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so he went up and bought it, and Owen is like, he's really nice.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed for the rest of the show? The Ubisoft logo.
Yeah.
On any game I saw, and I never noticed it before.
And you had actually gone out. You weren't there. I think you were getting something, and the boys were sitting by the door waiting for us. And he actually walked by, and the boys said hi to him. And he turned around, he said hi to them, like he totally remembered them. And the fact that this one grown-up man had affected them so much that when he walked by, they were both like, "Hey, like, how's it going?" I thought was really cool.
And this is their launch. Like this is a big day for them too.
Yeah.
And he took the time out, and it just. And now I notice Ubisoft everywhere.
Yeah.
I know, but
it's him.
But isn't that?
But it's him, right?
And isn't that branding though? Isn't branding noticing a brand?
Yeah,
like that
absolutely.
to me is what it is. Where now I'm now open to the game. Now, mind you, if all the games were terrible, it wouldn't make a difference how nice he was.
No.
But the combination of quality games and opening somebody's mind to it is a big part of that.
Especially in such a saturated market, there's so many games that
Sure.
you want to try, and the fact that he was able to do that with a personal touch, I think, really says a lot.
And so I sent him an email after the show and copied his boss in and just said how amazing he did and told him this is actually what I do. And I told him, I showed everything else. And then he asked for our address after that. And he sent a limited edition of the game with a remote control plane and everything in it too for his birthday.
Yeah.
And to me, again,
addressed to Owen too, which I think was really, really nice.
It was shipped to Owen. Like Owen had a Purelator package waiting for him. So
it was very nice.
It's certainly, and that of course leaves a lasting impression to Owen.
Yeah.
And what's the lifespan of Owen as a customer?
Oh
right?
gosh, yeah.
The exact
for sure.
demographic. Kind of what at least on the younger end of things going for it.
Absolutely.
And it's changed the brand to me, and that's marketing.
Yeah.
That's what it's about to me. That. Every single interaction, you can change it. He could have just said, "Not my problem," and obviously not said it out loud. Just went, "Well, whenever it's ready," and walked away and tried to find.
And we probably would have gone and gotten another game somewhere else,
and would have
right?
walked away.
Yeah.
And we may have gotten it or may have not. But you know what? If we did get it, I still wouldn't care about Ubisoft.
No,
it's just another developer.
Yeah,
it's another game I don't usually play.
Yeah.
And now my eyes open to all their stuff.
Yeah.
That's branding. And what did it take them? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And to give a damn?
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. And that's where really we see the experiences in brands where you say, that's good or that's bad. It's based on those things. And that's why you get these brands out there that are known. Like if I say great employees, give me a company you think of right now. Great employees.
Google or something.
Google. Okay, great. Yeah. Right. Great experiences.
Yeah, Apple probably.
Right, Apple. Yeah. Right. And in the States, it's Zappos a lot of the times, right?
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
To the point where, what makes these companies get good people and what makes these companies don't. And I've brought up the example like Zappos or like Disney at events and at talks and previously when I was doing consulting with clients, and they're like, well, they can do that because they're Disney. I mean, they can do that because, well, he's at Ubisoft. And I'm like,
but they don't. It's the opposite.
Why aren't you the Disney of your industry?
Yeah, and I think it's the opposite, actually. I think it's actually harder to make that kind of impression in a big company. That's why those big companies stand out so much, is because it's across the board.
Yeah.
I think in a huge organization, it's harder to do that.
And some of the biggest we just named them. Apple, Disney,
Google.
Zappos is huge, Google is huge, Amazon, great service. Yeah. The biggest companies in the world, some of the biggest companies in the world, are some of the greatest people experiences there are.
Yeah.
And yet, small businesses a lot of times can't hold a candle to it, and they only have 1, 2, 3, 10 people.
We talked about it a lot in Book of Business Awesome, I think, in one of the introductions, and talked a lot about how, like, a lot of people will use that as an excuse, basically. They say, like, I'm not Google, so I can't, or I'm not Apple, so I can't, or I'm not. But really, it all starts with one person. He was only one person acting very human, actually.
Right.
It was the opposite of acting like he was from a big fancy company. He didn't put on airs and pretend that he had a big brand behind him. He was just really human.
Right.
And I think that's what you find that people use as an excuse when they're in the best possible position to be as human as possible.
And it doesn't matter where you work in the chain. And I think a lot of
or which industry, right?
No. That for me, again, with that HR background, for me, I believe with that between my two worlds of HR and marketing, that the most important marketing we can do is hiring.
Yeah.
Right, hiring properly. And as soon as you as a business owner or somebody in a company that has a hand in hiring, as soon as you say the phrase, "We just need somebody," you've lost.
Urinal poker.
You get urinal assault poking, right? You do.
Well,
right?
I mean,
You get
maybe some red
dubstep
flags would have come up
violence.
if you'd interviewed them properly.
You know, they say video games attribute to violence. I think dubstep does.
Yeah,
we have proof. We have proof, right? What we just talked about. There's proof to that. There's a direct correlation.
We have data.
For me, that's where the difference is. As soon as you do warm body syndrome, as soon as you just say, and I've hired like that. I've done that. When I worked for Goodwill Toronto with retail, it was almost to the point where you're just in so much of a hurry. You want to hire based on without money or time as a factor. Yet those are the two biggest factors you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You want to find the best you can for every position, but really it's the best you can find under the constraints you have.
Yeah.
And we settle and we lazy hire. We do. But some companies don't. And I don't care if it's, I went around Disney World a couple years ago looking for anybody that just disliked their job. I was on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm a sick individual. I was on a mission and I found a busser. Somebody's cleaning tables from the conference after lunch, and I just walked in there. Nobody else is in there. I walked by. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going? Do you like your job?" They're like, "Yeah, it's good." It's a good place.
Can't say enough about Disney. I'm a crazy Disney.
Right. And that's where, no matter where we go or what you do with that brand, they have great people, from their stores to the people to the parks. And again, now there's a part of that attracts those type of people, right? Disney can attract those type of people.
But that's your job.
Right.
Like, your job in HR should be to set up an environment where people want to work there.
But there's your whole trick to HR, which in turn is marketing.
Yeah.
Make the good people want to work there
by setting up a good environment.
But that's a huge part of that of culture, of overused term, and sometimes undefinable, which is culture.
Yeah.
But to the point that, like, we'll take an example from the book, which is Lush.
Yeah.
Right. Which is if you don't know, about, it's a soap store. They sell pretty much handmade soaps. A store that I am probably not a frequent shopper at. So, give an example of Lush, where I walked into a mall, which is local to us here, Square One.
Yeah.
And I went in on a Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. And we all know,
which is the dead, dead time in retail, of course. Zone,
right? Everybody's stocking shelves, or talking, or eating, or whatever it is. And I went to 20-something stores and got ignored by every single one.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where, and that's just retail. And the amazing, sad thing is we just accept that. That's how retail is. It's full of disgruntled people. Like, when I used to do hiring, I used to say 3 to 5 years retail experience.
Yeah.
When in reality, I had no idea what the difference between the two things were. Yeah. I don't know the difference between 1 year experience in retail and 7 years experience in retail, except the person with 7 years experience hates people more than the person with 1 year experience.
Absolutely.
Right? That's really, and I think for every 5 years you work in retail, you're legally allowed to kill one person. Like, that's so if you work there 10 years, you got 2 people, right? Champagne bottle, dubstep, I don't care what it is.
Whatever.
But every 5 years, you legally can murder one customer at a time.
It was a store team building.
I think it was. It had to be.
It has to be
That's
retail.
either retail or restaurant.
Yeah.
I think it's hospitality.
Absolutely.
Or retail.
Yeah.
So I go around to all these stores, and of course my expectations are lower even at the low level they were at the start. And then I walked into Lush, and I walked into the store, and the girl behind the cash register just poked her head up and went, "Hi!" And I'm just like, hello.
You're looking behind you for the team of soap buyers.
Who are you talking to? I'm like, "Oh, hi." And she's like, "It's your first time here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Let me give you a tour." And she walks around the store like it's the White House. and this grand tour, it's 10 square feet.
Yeah, they're not big stores.
It's like a kiosk.
You can see everything pretty much.
It's pretty much you walk in like done,
Yeah.
And she just gave me the soap tour of epic proportions, and this is the soap, and this is we actually sell by the you cut it off the slice. And do you take baths? No, I don't take baths. And this is a soap. I walked out with $79 worth of soap. Do I look like I could use quality soap on $79? I buy soap by the case. And then it's a lifetime supply.
But she cared, right? She cared about her job, and obviously she was happy doing it, and she was happy you were there, and she treated you nicely.
I got home.
It should be a given. I mean, it shouldn't be.
I got home like, I don't know what I'm going to do right now, but I think I'm going to take a bath. Right? Like, I didn't know what, and then I went, okay, well, maybe that's just kind of just one person, right?
Yeah.
You always find there's one crazy person in every place, and we distinguish crazy being because they're good.
Yeah.
And so I went into another one, same thing. They're all.
But that's the culture, right?
They're all freaks.
That's the culture.
They're all wonderful, customer-oriented freaks
that love soap.
Yeah. Maybe it's something wrong. I don't know, but why do they find it?
make happy people.
But that's what I mean. Why do they find it?
Yeah,
like, how do they find these people? And why is it good to work there? Yet the 24 stores surrounding it, people just had something better to do than to help me. And that comes down to whatever that, if you want to call it culture, you want to call it a place where but to me, it's not even culture. It's not even culture. It's just finding the right people.
Yeah.
And you can't find that person versus somebody who just doesn't even look at me when I walk in because of a resume.
Yeah.
Because of experience.
Or without being a good place to work.
No.
You know, like you're not going to draw
and
those
it starts
people
at
out.
management.
Yeah.
You cannot love what you do when your boss is a prick.
No.
It just, you will just get beaten down until you're just one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
You know, when I had my first
that
job.
enthusiasm is actually crushed, right?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually discouraged.
Yeah.
My first job out of college at Goodwill, the HR job I
Yeah.
had, somebody walked up and says, "How do you like your job?" I'm like, "I love it." And they looked at me, I swear to you, they looked at me and said, "That'll change."
Oh, gosh.
Like, yeah, okay, they're a young pup. Yeah, give it some time. Like,
They
it was
need a
like,
bath.
oh, they need a bath.
Yeah.
They do. They seriously need a bath.
They need a bath.
They need to put on some light
Lush soap.
dubstep and have a bath.
I don't know.
or
I think they're
something.
the wrong people for dubstep. Actually, I think they're the stabbers. That's
Well,
not-
maybe I don't know. Maybe the reason why we hate retail too is the music. You know, I still remember
Yes.
the music playing in the background at Famous Players movie theater where I worked, where I cannot listen to Rock Lobster, the B-52s ever.
I worked at
because-
HMV one Christmas when they first started putting out, like, that's how old I am, when they first did like the first Much Music.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I can't do it.
Listen
I
to
don't.
it ever
It's not
again.
going to happen. But this is the thing. It comes down to finding those right people, and I don't think experience has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I rather based on that personality. I can teach you cash register procedures.
Yeah.
I can teach you return policies. I can't teach you to give a damn.
No.
I really, really don't think you can take somebody who doesn't like people, who just wants a job to pass the time, and teach them to care about a customer.
No, because you're putting people in front of them. So, like, you're giving them exactly what they hate.
Yeah.
You're actually making it worse.
And there's good people in retail. Walk into the Apple store.
Yeah.
I walked in and my stepson, his phone wasn't working too well. Every single person he dealt with was at the top level of retail service.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, they say, it's a culture and it's a traction thing, but they've so many people. They've redefined retail. And one of the ways they've done that, other than being no cash registers, which is freaky and amazing, one of the other things they do is it's just people are great.
Yeah.
People are great. And then, we can list the HR things for, the chance for advancement, the management, the training, all these type of things.
There's a pride too. Like, I think there's a retail pride to working someplace
Right.
like at the Apple store that you don't get in a lot of other retail. I think they train people well. I think they treat their people well. I think the people care about the product. The product is such that people feel passionate about
Right.
it. And I think that creates, like, everything kind of comes together into a place where you can tell people are happy to be there.
Right.
Work there.
And that totally it just then kind of just gets traded off into your customer base. They know they're going to be treated well, but also what also means, like you said, it's harder for the bigger companies because then the expectations are that high.
Yeah.
But here's my issue. So Disney being known as being great, and we've gone to many of them, and we've felt the same about all of them. Why can't Canada's Wonderland be that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Why can't Six Flags be known for service? Is Six Flags known for service?
I don't
Is
know.
Canada's Wonderland known for service? Have
I'm
you
still
ever
thinking about the person falling off the roller coaster.
have you?
It's
But
so funny.
yeah, which is not a good.
Canada's
thing at all.
Wonderland to me is I can't bring any food with me. That's Canada's Wonderland to me. But no, like, a Disney just, but you know.
So
that-
Canada's
I mean,
Wonderland here is one of our theme parks, or same thing as just amusement park.
Yeah.
But I've never heard Canada's Wonderland customer service.
Yeah, no.
I've never heard a story.
No.
That it's obviously the attraction are the rides, and we don't need to put too many great people on staff because it's the
I don't-
rides.
No. I don't think you ever don't need to put great people
That's
on
what I mean.
staff.
It's never known as, I'm going to have a wonderful day interacting with people there because it makes a trip a whole different world. You can, because Disney's, with us being parents and going around as parents,
Yeah.
that your day can be ruined or changed just by one interaction with one person. I want to give you an example of that came up, which is a most wonderful interaction we saw. We'll put a link on the site to this, theunpodcast.com, so you can get to it. I read this through Huffington Post, but it's actually, I'll share the individual site in a second. This is a letter a mom wrote to somebody at Disney, and one of the great things, by the way, Sharon K. Edwards is her name. She wrote to Disney because of her title is The Most Beautiful Ruined Moment, and which that title just gives me chills.
Yeah.
I love that title. And it's a long article. I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but it's her son is autistic, and they're going to go to Disney, and he wanted to do the Jedi training, at Disney World in Orlando, and I've seen it. We've seen it, right?
Yeah.
So many people have seen it, right? And the kid gets to dress up and go on stage and battle Darth Vader,
Yeah.
and so her son obviously wanted to do this, so.
Not only did he want to do it, but it meant like the whole world to him. He was
Right.
very excited about it.
So let me read some of what she wrote here. She wrote him the letter says, "Dear Master Jedi, this is an open letter of deep appreciation to you. I hope that somehow it finds its way to your computer screen. You're an actor and a damn funny one to boot. You're really skilled at working with the unpredictability of kids and turning it into entertainment. She goes on to say, you see, during the months of planning for our Disney World trip, I found out the Jedi Training Academy in Hollywood Studios and knew that my little boy would love participating in it. He has been diagnosed with autism and is typically oblivious to what goes on around him, except for Star Wars. I found an online clip of the Jedi Academy that some parent uploaded and showed him. He was so excited. I want to do that. I want to fight Darth Vader. He so very seldomly really communicates with us that when he does, I move heaven and earth to keep that connection going. He wanted to fight Darth Vader, huh? Then by God, he would. When we arrived at Hollywood Studios at the ribbon drop, I hightailed it to sign up for the Jedi training. There was already a huge line, and I was a little worried that all the spots would fill up before we reached the front of it. I was also concerned because the workers at the front were asking the kids questions to ascertain if they could follow instructions. I squatted down and had a little pep talk with my boy. Quote, Joshua, look at me, please. Look at me. Good. Listen to me. Are your ears on? Good. That lady is going to ask you how old you are. Do you know how old you are? 8. That's right. Now you have to talk to her, okay? I mean it, sweetie. When she talks to you, you talk back, or she won't let you fight Darth Vader. She then says, he never gave any sign of recognition, but I hope that he understood. We've been working on appropriate conversation skills for months now, and I was counting on that therapy to kick in high gear for him in this moment. It's our turn, and here we go. Hello and good morning, said a bright and cheery Disney cast member to Joshua. They're all bright and cheery, aren't they? Quote, are you ready to battle the dark side? Yes, Joshua mumbled. Oh my God, he talked to her. Quote, good, we need brave Jedis like you. How old are you? Joshua hesitated. She asked him again. I was about to answer for him when he said, I 8. Yes, 8, that's great. Now can you follow directions? Joshua blinked at her. If I told you to raise your hands, what would you... Oh, good. Joshua had risen his hands up high before she finished her question. Because of this miracle of a conversation, we were able to secure 2 spots for both of our kids in the 8 o'clock show. Our daughter decided she wanted to be a Jedi too. Perfect. This is going to be something they'll remember their entire life. After signing up, we went out about our sightseeing of the park, riding Star Tours 3 times in the process. Before and after each ride or attraction, my son asked, am I going to fight Darth Vader now? No, I'd reply, after supper. Have you eaten supper yet? Oh, that's right, he'd sigh. Then we'd have the same conversation again in about 20 minutes. The day went on and a storm blew through. I was glad that our Jedi training was after the big storm. Yay for us, right? Accordingly, after we ate supper at Hollywood and Vine, I took both of my Padawans by the hand and led them to Jedi training to suit up in their robes. Now? Is it time to fight Darth Vader now? He anxiously asked. Almost, sweetie. Almost. They led the kids to the stage, and there we saw you, Mr. Jedi Man. You were funny, entertaining, and great with the kids. Then Darth Vader made a wonderfully dramatic entrance. OMG, here we go. I looked at Joshua's face, which was plastered with the biggest grin I've ever seen. And my face was too. The assisting Jedi sent kid after kid to center stage to battle the Sith Lord. My daughter, Esther, was so cute. She stood so far away from him to fight. I laughed and enjoyed watching her. This is so cute. 5 left, now 4. It began to sprinkle rain. 3 left, now 2, now... We're sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Due to the rain, the Jedi Academy is closed. Joshua stood there on stage, lightsaber at the ready. He turned and locked his eyes on mine. Then he screwed his face up and cried, No, I didn't get to. He ran to me and I held him while he cried. I'm sure most people would, on observing this, assume he is spoiled. I assure you, he isn't. This is autism. He was fixated on something, then didn't get to do it. The vacation would be ruined for him, and we were only in day 2 of it. Nothing we can do can ever get him back on track once he derails. I began to cry despite myself. This would be all he would remember of his Disney trip. I locked eyes with you. Do you remember? I was crying like a blubbering dummy. I motioned for you to come to me. You stood there and looked around for a second. I motioned again. You took a hesitant step my way, then another. We stood face to face in the pouring rain. He's autistic, I choked out. This is all he's talked about all day. Is there anything you can do? Meet me around the side there, you nobly said. Kudos to staying in character the entire time, by the way. We made our way around to the side of the stage amid a sea of parents, kids, and cheery cast members. There you were, waiting all Jedi-like in an alcove, waiting for Joshua. You then made a grand presentation to him and gave him Darth Vader's lightsaber autographed by the Dark Lord himself. Say what? Joshua was in awe. You gave him the moon, Mr. Jedi Master. You fixed his day, his entire vacation. You got him back on track. I couldn't help but cry. I'm crying now, remembering your generosity of spirit for my little boy. You easily could have thrown your hands up when I motioned for you. You could have pointed to your character handler and shrugged a fake, I'm sorry. You could have simply ignored me and turned back, but you didn't. You may not even remember this moment. It was so small for you. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't fully explain how you, Jedi Master, made a ruined moment beautiful. Thank you from the very bottom of my heart. We spent the rest of the night jumping in puddles, riding rides, enjoying the nearly empty street of Hollywood studios, watching Fantasmic. Thank you again. You will never know how you helped us out. To say that you made our vacation is not an exaggeration. Most sincerely and appreciatively, Sharon K. Edwards.
Amazing. It's amazing.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I was going to read part of it, and you can't. That, to me, is Disney.
Yeah.
That, to me, is giving a damn. And here's the thing. The internet is full of this.
Yeah, it is.
Full of these stories. That making one person's day is your job.
Yeah.
Making one person's day is your entire purpose in life. And why aren't you the Disney of your industry? This is not because they have a great training manual.
No.
This is not because Disney makes money. This is because one person took action, took responsibility, and said, not on my watch.
Yeah.
This will not happen on my watch. This will not happen to this child. He didn't know the child was autistic, nor to probably this guy, it didn't matter.
No, he probably would have done it for any child that was crying. Or
Imagine if it's one of our children.
Yeah.
Imagine listening right now to one of your children.
Yeah. Well, that's the way the way she expresses it is beautiful, and that's why it's such a wonderful story. Because it made her day, it made her vacation, the way she describes how it was the only thing that made him communicate. Like it was his whole life at that point. That was all he wanted. You
want people to talk about you word of mouth. You want to trend in social media. You do something worth talking about.
Yeah, they don't need to buy views and stuff like that, do they? They just do that stuff and people do it for them.
You do something worth talking about. You know who does those things? Your employees.
Yeah.
People that work for you in the industries that are usually tossed aside of customer service and engagement or guest services.
Like costume character frontline person. I mean, think of how many people Disney employs to be Jedis. Think of how many people they're in costume there. It's thousands and thousands of people. And the fact that he had the ability and the will to do that is breathtaking. It makes the whole brand.
I want to find this guy.
Yeah.
I want to find this guy and give him a hug.
Yeah.
And a high five.
Yeah.
And I want to duel him. I want a lightsaber duel to happen.
You want a lightsaber?
Right, I do. This impresses me more than anything.
Yeah.
A website, a campaign, not a paint job somewhere on the rides.
Yeah.
Not even a new ride. Me knowing that there's people that care about myself, my family, wherever I go means I want to go there.
Yeah.
Means I want to buy a game from Ubisoft. Means I want to go to Disney. Because of that thing. There's another recent thing that happened with a Disney cruise when the kid got sick.
The Alaska cruise. Yeah.
That, around the same time that you took the same cruise as well.
Yeah.
And they found out the kid was getting sicker and sicker. They thought it was a cold and they didn't know what wrong. And so they went full steam ahead to Juneau and got there 6-7 hours earlier than they should have.
Yeah. And they actually saved the child because he had to have surgery.
Or
pneumonia. No, it wasn't surgery. He had pneumonia. And
he had surgery to remove something from his lung.
Yeah. And he was really, really ill and they cared. Like it was just... They could have said, we can't go any faster. They could have said, we'll be there as soon as possible, but it was unacceptable to them not to do everything they could to help the child.
And when they got off, it was his sister's birthday, and they gave him a bunch of things from the gift shop, made sure they got okay, always kept in touch with them, back for them, and then offered them another cruise.
Yeah.
You don't have to do those things.
No,
That's not in a policy manual. No. That's the thing. Awesome is not in a policy manual.
Yeah.
Being great at what you do is not a policy. It's not a procedure. It's not a training, right? That to me is the problem here. That's why I don't understand a lot of customer service training. Right? Do I have to train you when somebody comes in because their expectations weren't met, that your job is to maybe help them?
Yeah.
Instead of make them feel like an idiot? Maybe that your job is to maybe make them feel good about what they do, and feel good about being your customer, make them feel good about giving you money. I don't want to feel like an ass giving you money.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like, because I look bad with myself or my kids or whatever I do because I made that choice. And you're going to then say, you just going to be dismissive of me or not. You need to find the right people. You don't find this Jedi through a resume.
No, and I think people ignore experience, how important experience is. I mean, obviously with Disney, it's a vacation, which is an experience. But every single time you go, like that woman made Lush an experience. You didn't go in to get soap. You had an experience. Right. And I think that's the difference. That's where people go above and beyond, is when they remember that it's always an experience, always a human thing. Somebody else has come in, they need something. There's emotions attached to making a purchase. There's emotions attached to returning something or having a problem with something.
And that's what we started both books off with, just that individual human experience.
Yeah,
right?
actually, that's right.
Wes
the first
from the
story,
Win,
yeah.
who cleaned floors,
Yeah.
to Forbes at the Hilton,
Yeah.
who was the chef that was just not going to accept the fact that the food at the buffet wasn't good for me, and sincerely apologize for it. That you are your brand, and you are every experience, and you either care or you don't. Right? Either a customer is an interruption or an opportunity. That's it. There's no middle ground. There's no 11 different types of customers. To me, there's no customer profile.
Yeah, and I think we spend so much time thinking that we can make a place with price. Like if we can make something a little cheaper, that's going to beat us out over our competition. But really, it's making that experience happen.
Well, and
I would pay twice. I mean, Disney you'd pay twice to know that if your child got sick, that they would go above and beyond.
And you pay more.
Yeah,
you pay more, right?
And it's deserving, right? Like it's not a price point argument, because then you're at the bottom of the barrel.
And you went on the Disney Alaska cruise.
I did. And like I said, like I'm always. I mean, you are too. But you're always looking like not for bad necessarily.
I'm looking for bad all the time.
I don't know. I'm always looking for bad.
It's QR codes kill kittens. How to alienate customers, dishearten employees, and drive your business into the ground. I'm literally looking for bad all the time because it makes books. So yeah, I totally 100% looking for bad.
But I mean, I went on a trip with the kids, me and the kids, and I mean, at Disney, you're expecting everything to be above and beyond. But at the same time, like I did not have a single experience that wasn't above and beyond. From the first person who took the suitcases from the taxi to the last person who put the suitcases back in the taxi, every single interaction was exceptional. And like
in an industry, sometimes that is not exceptional. A lot of times, people live on these ships. They're coming in and out every week. Thousands. It's just revolving cities.
Yeah, but little tiny things like them knowing what they would remember what my children like to drink, and it would be like a given. They would just know, or remembering their names. Like when you go to meet the characters already know their names. And I remember on the cruise we took together too. Like Tessa still talks about Mickey Mouse knowing her name, and I mean obviously it's a child and they told him her name, but to her that's a real thing.
Huge.
Mickey Mouse knew her name. Mickey Mouse checked and made sure she liked her food. That doesn't have a price, I don't think.
Well,
I mean, that's amazing.
Even with price, I think we are willing to pay for that as well too. Like a Disney cruise can be what, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, right? Where that money can go and go with that kind of budget, you can go a lot of places with it too. But
it was exceptional though. Right. It was really exceptional, and at that price, you expect more. Yeah. So it's also even though you pay the money and you expect it, and was not. You expect it to be more, then it's even more than more. Like I could never say enough good things.
And they could do the amusement park move and just say, well, the attraction is the cruise. And the icebergs but
everybody, like the person who turned down the room. One night we changed our dinner. Disney has dinner seatings, and we were late, and then we changed it to early seating because they were falling asleep. And when we changed it, we came back, and the person hadn't turned down the beds yet, and he was upset. He was like, "Why did you not tell me? Why did I not know that you had changed your dinner reservations?" Because he cared so much that we should come back and everything should be perfect. That's not normal. Like, I mean, I wish it was normal, but it's not. It's exceptional.
And he cleans the rooms.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's not just the captain of the ship.
No.
It's not just the character. It's not just the Jedis.
No.
It's not just Mickey.
No.
Right.
It wasn't.
It's people taking pride in their work.
Yeah.
And there's and there's things. There's rewarding people for it. There's paying them a living wage. There's a lot of different things and factors that go into it. But it's finding those people. Right. Yeah. And Disney has a great advantage of attracting those people. Now, but it's still, even from day one, and any other business that does well or doesn't is based on how do they react in situations. That's to me, that's your, again, especially under stress. How do you react in those situations? And you can tell by body language and everything else you did, because you, after the cruise, came home on Via on their cross Canada train.
Yeah.
Comparative cost
was similar
to the
actually.
cruise, right?
Yeah, it was very similar.
But a totally different experience.
It was a totally different experience. And that was very much one of relying on the sights. Like that the trip back was about how beautiful Canada is. Canada is very beautiful and it was a beautiful experience, but customer service wise, you can't compare it. And when you think about this price wise was Disney was more, but similar.
Pretty
You
close,
could have been, for the same price, you could have been on that ship.
Yeah.
You can't compare it. And saying, well, you got to see all these sights is great, but Canada's beautiful isn't necessarily a selling feature for something like that.
No, and it started bad right off the bat.
It did. And I mean, you also have to, like, the care and concern we had, like, I was traveling by myself with 3 kids. They're fairly young. I mean, I guess they're getting bigger. But the care and concern of people who, like, helped us with bags and took things for us and asked what they could do for us in Disney compared to Via, which didn't really care at all, is incomparable. Like, you cannot compare. And it was obvious that the people at the train station just didn't care. They just wanted to fill up the train, get people on as quickly as possible. I was a nuisance because I was slower, because I had the kids with me and all these different things. And so, I never felt like a nuisance when I needed extra help with Disney. So I would go back to Disney in a heartbeat and do it again, as opposed to Via, where I don't like feeling like a nuisance. I don't think and never mind how much money it costs, but you paid enough money not to feel like a nuisance, right?
And you had booked on Via a double sleeper cabin.
We had pretty much the nicest possible accommodation in Via, and very nice accommodation in Disney as well. And you just couldn't. It was worlds different in terms of customer experience.
And the Via guy, the first guy you meet, the first touch point.
Yeah, the first touch point
was a prick.
Yeah, totally. We'd given him. He told us we had the wrong information. He wouldn't help me with the bag, and I'm here. It's 8:30 at night with 3 kids by myself, and
he just handed you a roll of tape.
Yeah, he handed me a roll of
tape. The suitcase that you were told you were allowed to bring into the double room where I had to be checked, and they said you could bring no bags.
Yeah, and he thought it was perfectly reasonable that 4 of us would travel for 4 days with backpacks, even though the night before I'd been told I could bring a suitcase. So I had to open my suitcase in the train station and repack it.
And yet everybody on the train was really nice, but that just soured your experience from the start.
Yeah, and there were other things too. There were a lot of delays and very short trips off the train and things like that. And it kept coming back to, well, look at Canada. And I was like, well, Alaska was pretty amazing too.
Saskatchewan. Look, it's Saskatchewan.
No one in Disney said, but the ocean.
Yeah, but
it's
the
miserable
iceberg.
in here, but the iceberg. Every person cared. Every person was happy. And I think that's a reflection of their hiring. I think it's a reflection of the way I'm sure these people are treated. I try and understand that everyone is having a day, and I don't know what kind of day this person had, but he certainly took it out on me.
So here's the golden question. Would you recommend the Disney cruise to others?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would go on the exact same Disney cruise tomorrow if I could. I had the best time, and no, I would not recommend the Via train to others.
I think there it is.
And I'd wanted to do that my whole life because I really wanted to take the train across Canada. I thought that was really cool.
Sure.
But
again.
I wouldn't know, not unless they made some changes to the way things are organized, because I think it's unfortunate. Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. If we swapped out that guy at the front, the whole trip's different.
Yeah, there's a number of things, but he was certainly the touch point.
One guy.
Yeah.
One guy who just couldn't give a damn.
It was like when we got to we stayed at a hotel in Vancouver, and I can't remember the name, so I'm going to have to remember, because they were fantastic in Vancouver near the port.
We'll put a link on this.
Yeah, we'll find it. And they had freshly baked cookies. I mean, I don't know how nice it is to get to a hotel and have your hungry children offered freshly baked cookies. I can't tell you what that does, but I mean, it's just a little thing. It's not a big deal. I mean, I would have stayed at the hotel if they didn't have cookies, but how nice is it that somebody thought about it?
And I think that's one of the things that we're aiming for next year in the next book with Pulse. Whereas these little things may not make or break everything, but depending on how loyal or how getting frustrated a customer you are, is the one thing that will knock you off the edge.
And you have so many choices. Especially with travel, especially with entertainment, especially with restaurants. There's so many choices that I just don't think you can afford to not have great service. And I think with small companies, because a lot of your audience are smaller companies, you're in a better position to do that. So I don't know why you're worrying about being a little cheaper than your competitors when you could just be focusing on being so much better at service.
And that's where it's almost to the point where it's you tolerate some places, but you only tolerate them until a better option comes along.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And that's the pulse point, right? Like we're talking about kind of the line at the top and the line at the bottom, and moving. There's kind of a visual, if you picture like a heartbeat kind of pulse of that, what takes you up and down, and then there's the drop off point where you're gone, or the way to the top point where you're kind of a rabid fan, like Disney has made me and you, and then, you know, you've done your job. I think you should always be aiming for that. You shouldn't be aiming for just kind of keeping your customers around, because then you're open for competition.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, and the bar is set so low anyways. But well, people ask they ask me why I still would shop at Walmart, because I made the video. We'll put a link to it for you. But the video, the 10-foot myth, right, with Hello Lionel Richie in the background, where Walmart says if a customer comes within 10 feet of an employee, they have to stop what they're doing, say hi, and ask if they can help. And I've never had anybody ever do that to me at Walmart ever. And I made a video, and it's gotten a few 100,000 views, and it's me walking around going, you know, over 1, over 2, passing. It's pretty awesome. It's over 17.
I suggest you watch it.
And one of the things that I throw back at myself too is like, well, but I still shop there. I just went there yesterday.
Yeah.
And here's the reason with my kind of where my pulse is of this thing is, it's just the selection they got. And the price is
proximity as well,
and it's
close.
Right there.
Yeah.
But if anything came within reaching distance, I don't like going there. So anything comes within reaching distance of that, I can just drop right off.
Yeah.
You know, right? I'd rather go to Whole Foods.
Plus, we all have our different pain points. Like maybe you don't want everybody to say hi.
Right.
Like I walk around, every single person says hi to you. I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing, but that was one of the tenets of their company. So that's why I detest it.
A huge part.
Yeah, but I mean, if you could never find a helper, like, you know, I find this at Home Depot. If you go to Home Depot, you have to wait like 20 minutes to get someone to help you. So like I would drive extra to go someplace where somebody would help me in like a hardware thing where I don't know anything.
Right.
As opposed to there, like some people wouldn't need that help. So they could go to Home Depot and they'd be perfectly happy. They don't need help picking out their stuff.
I was in Home Depot once and I tweeted that I'm standing there alone. Yeah. And I'm like the guy with no date at the prom, and nobody was helping me. And I tweeted it, and their Twitter account was faster than any employee. Yeah, and this just happened with Best Buy and the Apple Store, right? This happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a great
I took my
story.
stepson out there too he had some gift cards saved up, and he wanted to get the new Beats by Dre headphones because my children are hip. Hip, is that the term? Is that with that? Are there?
I'm too old for those headphones.
Bomb diggity? Is that the right?
No, it's definitely not bomb diggity.
Okay. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's a new thing. They get jiggy with it.
No.
That's the term, right? That's where we're gonna go. So he wants the new mixer.
Just embarrassed our children.
How you doing, Aiden? Oh, good to see you guys. Love you. So he wants the new mixer Beats by Dre headphones. They're the ones I can't wear because it just looks I'm trying way too hard, right? Any guy over 30 with his hat backwards and Beats by Dre, you're just trying too hard. So, but we'll listen to Dubstep together. So we go to, he's got the gift cards for Best Buy. Yeah. So obviously we're going to go to Best Buy.
Yeah.
So we're at the Apple Store and we're getting his phone. A wonderful customer service experience, right? As soon as we walked up and mentioned the problem, it's like, yep, new phone, no problem.
Yeah.
And really helpful. Didn't make us feel like idiots, which is very easy to do in tech. We saw the headphones there.
Yeah.
But we're like, even though it's great here, we got the Best Buy gift cards.
Well, he's been saving them as well, right?
Yeah.
So he wants to
So
get
we
them.
go to Best Buy.
Yeah.
And we go in there, and I'm a Best Buy connoisseur. For a very long time. I got a lot of Blu-rays I've never watched.
Many quarters have looked up because you walked into Best Buy.
Many financial statements have approved because I walked into Best Buy. And I hadn't been there in a while this time, though. And I go in there, and we grab a game and a Blu-ray because, again, it's just I waste money that way. If I pick it up because I have some kind of justification to buy RoboCop for the 4th time or something because this time it's on an extended edition steel case version of a Blu-ray, right? Right? You know, you see, Wayne knows how I feel, right? You don't get that too, right? I don't even know what I'm talking about, right? Just because I got 6 editions of Tombstone doesn't mean make me a bad guy. So I go and I get these things, and literally they produce these things and say, "Here's this. Scott will take care of half this."
Of course.
So we go and we finally find, and these Beats by Dre are just scattered all over the store, right? So we finally find where they are, and we find the color he wants, but it's locked in a case. And you're right. I actually don't like dealing with most retail people, anyways. You are Mensa at dealing with retail workers. By the way, you are the Mahatma Gandhi of brushing off retail, by the way. I'm not even pointing, I'm praising. Like, this is like, you literally have walked into a store with her and she can ignore the person that the person is Hollow Man. Like, they are Invisible Man. And I trail behind apologizing. Sorry about that. No, she's fine. Sorry about that. She actually can't hear you. Or, I gotta roll with the apology. And I am the one. I'm usually the guy who's the one who's dismissive. So we go to Best Buy, can't find anybody. And nobody comes, and I'm with my kids. Yeah. So I'm setting the father example of what I do with an unmarketing lesson on the side. So because that's not horrible to do to your kids. And I'm waiting, and nobody comes.
Yeah.
And then so I send the kids off
And you can't get them because they're in a case, so you need somebody to come.
I would love nothing more to interact with nobody at this store. But since they've locked this down,
it's like they should have a case section with case people.
But that's what I mean. Just give me the key.
Yeah.
Just let me open this case.
I just want to give you my money for these headphones.
So, again, why are you making it so hard for me to give you my money?
Yeah.
The less effort and levels and layers between my wallet and your register is a good thing. So they walk over to the cell phone area, which is just perfectly manned with multiple people ready to go.
Wow, that's because those are people from the cell phone.
And they say, can somebody help us 30 feet away?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, go find somebody in that section.
When you're right there, you can good face.
So they come over and they relay this news to me.
Yes.
I then start to yodel at the top of my lungs.
And your children are cowering.
And I have a great set of lungs.
You do.
Right? And I'm just...
You're not quiet.
Just giving her. And they're like, stop it, Daddy, stop it.
That will not be the last yodeling on the podcast.
And I said, if this doesn't get them to come over, I don't know what will. And then another guy walks by, but he's in the walk of, I'm not interested in helping you walk. And I'm like, excuse me. He's like, oh, what?
Oh, gosh.
Like I've just interrupted Costanza walking by with his clipboard in the office. He's like, what? I'm like, can somebody open this? He's like, I'm with a customer right now, but I'll radio somebody for you. And he takes his fake Secret Service radio and pretends to radio somebody. And nobody. 15 minutes. And I tweet, by the way. Yeah. I tweet and I say, I always remember why I shop online when I come to Best Buy. Yeah. That was the tweet.
Yeah.
Best Buy's...
It's going to take less time to ship the headphones to you than it would.
So Best Buy's Twitter account in a minute and a half replies back. I'm sorry, the problem.
They have
what can I help
Twitter
you?
account.
What can I help you with?
Yeah.
I'm like, you can help me by taking my money right here.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry about that. Which store? I'm like, this is ridiculous. I love the fact they're great on Twitter, but if your Twitter team is getting back to me more than somebody beside me at your store,
it's actually more irritating, I think. But
yeah, move those Twitter people into the store. And they're complaining about how the big box stores are dying. How we're doing a lot of what's called showrooming nowadays. That's the term of du jour of the marketing world, which is people going to stores, finding stuff, and then ordering them online.
Yeah.
Amazon allows you.
And it is a big problem.
Amazon
for
has an app
especially.
too. Allows you to scan the barcode of the item and then
compares
order
all
right
the
away.
prices. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, for sure. But here's one of the issues too. If you make it so freaking hard for me to give you money, and now I'm done yodeling, and now I've had enough, and now I'm disgruntled Scott.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've never seen this, but disgruntled Scott, where it's now principal.
I've seen him a couple times.
We put down the movie, the game, and I go to the kids. I'm like, we're leaving.
Oh, you lost RoboCop. That's so sad.
Yeah, that's Murphy gone.
Oh,
right. Yeah,
that's unacceptable.
Yeah, OCP gone. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. Dick, you're fired. Yeah, Dick is a name. I can say it, right? It's his name in RoboCop. So I'm missing all that gloriousness, even though I have 6 copies at home. I'm not going to be able to watch it. So I sacrifice frickin' RoboCop.
I'd
buy that for $1. Right? Yeah, I would go. Right. So I sacrifice RoboCop.
Yeah.
And the game that I was getting. I think it was the new Madden football game.
All right.
With Barry Sanders on the cover, by the way.
Of course.
And we leave. And we're gone, and we're no longer. And I'm letting my kids.
And the boys
down.
are kind of a little bit.
And Aiden's such a great kid, and he's like, oh, I get it, I understand. So the next day we have to go back to get a replacement phone because we didn't back up the phone, and I had to go back because whoops. So we go back, and you know what I did? We bought the headphones at the Apple Store.
Yeah.
And then Owen, my son, realized that he may want this for his birthday too. We bought 2 pairs.
Yeah.
Happily, wonderfully, and the Apple Store does not lock the stuff down. You can check out, by the way. You can check out on your own at the Apple Store with the app. You can scan the item in the store, pay for it with your iTunes on your phone, and walk out.
I've never waited more than 30 seconds for someone to help me.
But here's the difference. At the Apple Store, we grab the headphones, and we stand there for a second. We already got the phone replaced. Everything's done. Yeah. We're done our transactional thing with the Genius Bar and everything else. We're standing there with the headphones.
Yeah.
And a girl walks by, looks like a manager, and she's same move. She's on a mission to walk past us.
She's helping a customer already, kind of like the other person.
And she catches me in her peripheral.
Yeah.
And instead of pretending she doesn't see me, she turns her head and mouths the words, "Are you being helped?"
Yeah.
Just to ensure that I'm okay.
She cares that you're being served.
And I just shake my head no. And she just goes, like you saw the smoke on her shoes when she stopped. And she just looks at the other customer and just goes, 1 second.
Yeah.
And goes to me and goes, "Hey, are you set to be checked out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're done. We just want these 2 headphones. $600 for 2 headphones, right? We just want these 2 headphones." And she's like, Shelly should be here, which usually would lead to it's not my problem. Yeah. And she'll be here soon to, you know what? I'll just do this right now for you. Pulls out out of her pocket the whole cash register, pretty much.
Yeah.
Scans it. 30 seconds later, we're out the door. $600 on headphones.
Yeah, but you know what
a higher view of the brand. And you know who didn't get $300 plus a game plus a second set of headphones? Best Buy.
Yeah, and you know what store is always busy?
Apple Store.
Yeah. And they like just everything. They had the camp. I told you about the camp. They had a camp in the summer for the kids. How brilliant is that? Free camp. Yeah. To get the boys in there learning about video equipment. Of course we bought something. Of course every single time we go in there we buy something. And we own every single product that they've ever made. I mean, the Apple Store is always busy for a reason. The training programs and the customer service and all these kinds of things, that's why.
And that's really the moral of the story for this episode 3 of the UnPodcast. Really, I think what we learned today, don't hire people that like dubstep.
It's a mistake.
Right? It is a mistake.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to my man Wayne and my Adam taking care of the audio and the video for us all the time. It is a pleasure to be talking to you. For Allison and myself, thanks so much and have a great week.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and visit theunpodcast.com. And remember, friends don't let friends use QR codes.